Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. It is the middle of June, June 12th, which is good news because it means only 6 weeks to real Giants football, but also bad news, Nick, because it's the last OTA before training camp. So we are going to be dry as the Sahara Desert, dry as you-know-who. I didn't want to go there. I could go a lot of directions.
You could go in many directions right there, Dan. It's probably best since we have a younger audience sometimes to not
go in any of those directions. But we got 5-6 weeks after this to try to figure out what to talk about. I love and hate that period. And by love and hate, I mean I just hate it. But we'll do some fun stuff. We'll talk about historical Giants. Maybe we'll dive deep into some scheme stuff. I don't know. We'll think of it. We always find a way. But I'm sad, Nick, because of the last action we get to see of our players. And it's a pretty exciting group, I think. So I'm excited to see the videos that drop and the action. But before we get into today's practice, 6/12, the last practice of OTAs, I want to talk about a couple things that have been circulating around Giants social media before practice. And the first one I want to talk about, did you get a chance to see the All-22-esque end zone view clip of what Abdul Carter shared to his social media?
Yes. I mean, how could you not if you're on social media at this point? It's all over Giants Twitter, Giants Instagram, Giants whatever. And yeah, that is one controlled and fluid mover. That's what I would have to say about Abdul Carter.
Let me see if I can actually get this up for the fans to watch as we talk about it. Let's see. Instead of filibustering, though, now I'm going to put this in here for a second. I'm going to try to share the screen. But my first thought about that, Nick, was watching that clip was, one, I understand there's no pads. And this is something Jermaine Illuminor tweeted about. He kind of defended himself and the offensive lineman. Like, listen, you guys, there's a reason why Giants' own social media accounts don't post clips of O-line versus D-line during OTAs because there's no pads. I respect that take from Jermaine Illuminor, Nick, but I also kind of feel like pads or not, I don't think Aaron Stinney was going to get his hands on Abdul Carter on this clip. And there we go. Nick has found it and he's sharing it. But pads or not, I don't think that what the issue that I think that offensive lineman will have with defending Abdul Carter when he's lined up like this over the guard is they won't be able to locate him with their hands. He's too quick. Those spin moves are too fast and decisive, and they just won't be able to get their hands on him regardless if there's pads on them or not. That was my first thought about the whole pads versus no pads thing. Oh, you're muted, Nick. I can't hear you. Or maybe sharing this video has
no. I'm right here. I had to mute it just to ensure there were no sounds coming out. But I do agree, Dan. Now, I'll say this. I agree with Jermaine Illuminor as well. Like, look, dude, first off, there's two non-starters in here, and Aaron Stinney, and I think James Hudson the second. Beautiful moves, though, still by Abdul Carter and Brian Daboll. I'm not losing my mind over it, though. I don't think a lot of people are. I think we're just yearning for football. So seeing this with the expectations and the potential that we understand with this specific group, it gets us going a little bit. It's not necessarily us throwing shade at the offensive line, but Jermaine Illuminor is right. If you can get your hands on these guys a little bit more, there's going to be a little bit more roughhousing. And I think when you're not scared to get leveled, it allows you to be comfortable enough to land a spin move like this. Because you don't see too many times where there's two guys doing these crazy spin moves because these guys aren't going to get cold clocked in this situation. But what I wanted to focus on with this specific play, right? Like it's awesome to see Brian Burns and Abdul Carter move like this, but it's that alignment, dude. This is the alignment that I want to see. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you have the 2-eye. He's going to slant. He's going to take away John Michael Schmitz, and then you have the 4-eye shade. He's going to be isolated, and that's Abdul Carter in this case. Right here, he's going to be isolated against Aaron Stinney, and then you have the wide defender with Jermaine Illuminor. So, like when you can align your players in such a manner, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, we talked about it all off season, Dan, it's going to set up these one-on-one matchups where these spin moves may be able to be landed judiciously. I wouldn't do it too frequently because you're going to get cold clock sometimes, but when offensive lineman declares early, for instance, it's going to allow Abdul Carter or Brian Burns to showcase one of the many aspects that we really appreciate. But in this case, it's their control when they are spinning. It's their ability to just be like, oh, here's my chest. Ha, not there anymore. It's my back. And now you're scrambling and your feet are not in place. And now I have the advantage. So I'm excited. But again, I'm not losing my mind over this because of what Jermaine Illuminor said. And I tend to agree with him for the reasons that I just laid out.
Yeah, and I think you and him both broke it down well. At the same time, again, I feel like this is a tough spot for any guard in the
Oh, it
NFL,
is. It
Skinny
is.
or Van Roden or whoever the Giants are matched up against. This dude is really tough to keep hands on. We saw this when he was at Penn State. Like, that was what got me so excited when I was watching his tape. It was like, yeah, there were the reps on the edge, which are like at times Von Miller asked with the bend, but there were also those reps over the A and B gap and over the guards where he just absolutely was too quick for these guards to get their hands on him. And that's what he's going to be. And you know what, Nick? I've seen so many plays like this throughout my life watching Giants football flipped around where the Giants were on offense, which I guess they technically are here. And essentially, this is a third. I'm looking at this as like a passing down situation, the way the Giants are aligned on offense. And it's just a dead in the water play. Like, no matter what you do, you catch the snap as a quarterback. And I get it. We have no pads on, so the O-line could be doing better. But we will be seeing some plays like this where the quarterback catches the snap in the gun. Everyone knows it's a pass. And there's nothing he can do. There's no time for the routes to develop in this play at all if you're watching this back. There's no time for the quarterback to see anything. And the pocket is collapsing on him from the edges and then inside with Abdul Carter. Plus, this whole thing was done, Nick, without Dex on the field. Remember what Burns said? We have a Dex. Well, guess what? Dexter Lawrence over the last 3 seasons had 103 total pressures from nose tackle, according to Steve Palazzolo, who we've had on the podcast. The next 2 guys after him over these last 3 seasons, Vita Vea with 23 and Jordan Davis with 22. He has 80 more pressures over the last 3 seasons of any nose tackle, despite being double teamed more than any nose tackle by 2x, 2 times more than any nose tackle he's been faced with a double team. So either A, you keep double teaming him and you get eaten up by the 3 guys you saw in that clip, or B, you don't double team him and those pressures are going to go even further up for Dex. It's amazing to think about what that 4-man pass rush can look like.
It could be amazing. Just get to 3rd and 6 plus. Get to 3rd and 6 plus New York Giants, and you're going to be able to see Dexter. We're going to be able to almost relive what we experienced back in 2007. That type of level of pass rush. And I know that is invoking a lot of memories from the New York Giants, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, but Dexter Lawrence in his prime, Brian Burns in his prime, Kayvon Thibodeau hopefully entering his prime and taking a step with this rookie sensation in Abdul Carter, throw a Chauncey Golston in on that. That is an elite pass rush. If the Giants, and I've said it so much, if the Giants can get themselves into a position to allow the pass rush to actually rush the freaking passer, to force the opposing offense to throw the freaking football.
Sure.
If that can happen, this could be a very fun season for us New York Giant fans.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Nick. And it's very exciting to think about those long passing situations, because I just envision a play looking like the one we saw where the pocket is just collapsing before the quarterback can even see the route combinations, let alone it's hard for us to judge. I could see their split safety look behind, but it's hard for me to judge that route combo just from that clip from the end zone angle. But one final thing about that clip that stood out to me, Nick, was 73 Evan Neal at starting left guard. Thought he looked pretty balanced out of his set there. Like I joked it was one of the more balanced reps I've seen from Evan Neal, just in how he gets into his stance and the way he moves. I thought it was really interesting. So for those who want to watch that, you can rewind back on YouTube and take a look at just 73, the left guard there, Evan Neal. He looks for work and he does a good job, in my opinion, of staying balanced on this rep. So just a decent sign, I hope, moving forward for Evan Neal.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're reaching a little bit, but
maybe.
I mean,
there's still a little bit of weight over the toes, for sure.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not even suggesting that. It's just one clip where you don't even really get to see much at all. Like, it just starts right there and he takes one step, watches the linebacker not commit himself to the blitz, and then engages and helps John Michael Schmitz. But it's that formation right there that we've been discussing for so long, where there's 2 guys on the 1-2 who slanted inside, and then just one-on-one matchups across the board. Now that 2 shade could be Dexter Lawrence, or you could put Dexter Lawrence on the other side. You could put Dexter Lawrence wherever. Like the amount of combinations the Giants can achieve through this personnel package and the personnel just in general that the New York Giants have, that's endless, and that's fun.
Sure. And it's a great point. All right, let's move on to another thing, and then we'll get to today's practice and what we learned from there. I don't know if you got a chance to see this yet, but Tiki Barber, former Giants legend, was on the Go Long podcast with Tyler Dunn, who seems to get like a lot of good scoops. Like, he had a ton of scoops with Daboll and the Bills, and they were talking about it. And Tiki Barber said he's really excited about the fit with Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart because he believes that the personalities of Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones were too different. He said it was like oil and water. He said Daboll and Josh Allen bonded off the field and had a personal relationship that allowed Dabes to feel comfortable being very aggressive in how he coached Allen. Dabes wanted to scream, yell, be aggressive, and push the quarterback from that standpoint. And he said you never saw that dynamic with the Giants. He said mainly, this is Tiki Barber's words, because Daniel Jones didn't have that. He didn't have that I can accept you yelling at me and be motivated by it. He said it felt like he went into a shell sometimes. And I think we saw this really throughout his career. That's not to knock Daniel Jones, just say he's a different personality than a Josh Allen type. And what Tiki Barber said, which I think is also true, is from everything he's seen, Dabes likes to be challenged back by the quarterback. He wants a fiery quarterback who's not going to like lead by being quiet and kind of going into his shell. He wants someone who's going to fight back and challenge him as well. And he said it's that type of quarterback like Allen who works for Brian Daboll's personality. He said he really believes from being around the building and, just from seeing these guys that Jackson Dart can be that guy. So I thought that was something really interesting because it's a totally different leadership style with Dart and Jones. I think you can tell already, but also it's different with Russell Wilson and Jones and Russell Wilson and Dart from that example. And I wonder if Russell Wilson will be the guy who can get fiery and kind of challenge Daboll back. What do you think about any of that?
No, I think it's a astute point made when you just look at Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll I think he likes to be challenged with his players. He doesn't like to be challenged with the freaking media at all, but in that locker room, he wants those players and those other people that he respects to push him a little bit. Like that does make sense. I'm not in that locker room. I don't really know. I think there's some conjecture here, but it seems to jive with his personality, right? It seems to jive with his fiery type of personality. Now, I think you could also look at this, and we've heard Daboll reference this plenty of times in the past when Daniel Jones was the quarterback, that there was a balance between Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones, because Brian Daboll wasn't the most composed individual on the sidelines, whereas Daniel Jones was a much more composed, kept his emotions in check. Jackson Dart, I think he does lean more towards Brian Daboll, and I think there's an argument that maybe you do want that balance there, but to me, personalities mean a lot as long as though you're being able to be coached and you can learn from that coach, and then you can take what that coach is coaching and apply it to the football field. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. I don't think Jackson Dart, just because he's a little bit more fiery than Daniel Jones, is going to have an issue with Brian Daboll. But again, it's June right now. We need some stuff to talk about. And I do think overall Tiki made a solid point. I just don't know how much I'm going to read into that. I think Daniel Jones wasn't a great fit here because Daniel Jones isn't a great quarterback, isn't a good quarterback. And that's more so rather than his personality. His personality could have been fine with Daboll. I think they could have meshed if he could throw the deep ball and realize, hey, I maybe throw with some anticipation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and in addition to all the other things he did poorly at the position, but from a actual play standpoint, I do think the personality does matter a little bit, though, and I do think
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I just think I think we're reading into it.
In the end, it's a little overrated. Yeah. Sure, agreed. Because ultimately, like even if Jackson Dart is fiery like Jones wasn't, and Daboll likes that style, and Daboll can mesh with that, and they can kind of get along better off the field, and therefore get along better on the field. In the end, it's like still Jackson, when the bullets are flying, can you get the ball out quick, on time, in rhythm, with anticipation, regardless of how you mesh with the dude off the field. So ultimately, you're right. That's all that actually matters for this quarterback, and if he develops. But I do think some of that is interesting to me, just the way that it was. And the more we learn about this situation, Nick, the more it really feels to me like Jones was here for as long as he was here because of Shane and not Daboll. I really do honestly feel that way. I always kind of felt that way based on some of the stuff Daboll said in his pressers, and him just getting so destroyed by that disgusting pick six against who was that team that Jones threw that pick six. He throws the tablet. Seattle, just an inexplicable throw with Waller running the flag open. Like you could tell just from all the context clues, but maybe that's what Daboll needs. At least my hope, Nick, is maybe that's what Daboll needs to become a better coach. He needs somebody he can mesh with better at the quarterback position, because that's the leader of the team. I don't know. That's just my hope.
That could 100% be accurate, right? Especially
it feels like a little bit of a stretch.
When your back's pushed against the wall, right? Like you sometimes maybe tempers do fly at times. But if the quarterback's playing the position, the coach is coaching the position. If you have a quarterback who's maybe a little bit more vocal with what he sees and can articulate that to the coach, and maybe like, look, no, we can't do that. We're going to do this, blah, blah. And there could be something that translates that's beneficial towards the New York Giants winning. But at the end of the day, when we bring Daniel Jones into the conversation and his personality, to me, it's much more obvious the issue, and that was just Daniel Jones had a lot of work to do as a quarterback.
Yeah, he just played the position really poorly, which is really the ultimate reason he failed here. And that's fine. We can move on from that. I just thought it was interesting that Tiki brought that up, and there's kind of the idea. I've never really heard that before, and he voiced that into existence at least. I want to go over this Jackson Dart touchdown pass, touchdown quote unquote, in 7-on-7s to Daniel Bellinger. Nick, I assume you had a chance to watch this. I'm going to see if I can share this right now.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay. So I just want to bring up this play because it stood out to me. Because this was kind of an example of, at least in my mind, and here's the play. He throws that little corner route over the DB, I believe was Flott, and drops right into the bucket for Daniel Bellinger. This was kind of the area of the field I thought Jackson Dart did the best job of attacking at Ole Miss, those kind of out-breaking routes in between zone coverages at times. And this was kind of the area of field the Giants really struggled at over the last 6 years throwing to. They didn't attempt a lot of passes into these honey holes, as some people call them, these hole shots, and they didn't complete them when they attempted them. The ball kind of went flat to those areas. It didn't kind of have, as you can see in this video, that trajectory to go over the top, over that 28 defender, and then into the arms perfectly there to Daniel Bellinger. It's just something interesting to me to see a quarterback who's willing to throw these routes and a quarterback who's aggressive with it. And I know that him playing at Ole Miss and being so aggressive with it is kind of what sold, in some ways, Daboll to drafting this quarterback, because it's a mindset thing. You have to be willing and aggressive to throw these, and you have to know confidently that you can make these throws. And I think Dart has all three of those things: the aggressiveness, the willingness, and the confidence.
I agree. It's a good throw. It's 7-on-7. There's no one rushing him.
Yeah.
Daniel Bellinger's wearing freaking sweatpants. So keep things into perspective, but it's a good throw. It's probably a high-low concept, and Cordell Flott got drawn to the low route, and Dart was able to put just enough touch over the top of Cordell Flott, and Bellinger did a good job just running underneath it and securing the catch for a touchdown.
I think this is also an area of the field Russell Wilson, Nick, can attack as well and is willing to throw to.
And
it's just so big.
And we've said this plenty of times, not to be redundant, but it's also an area of the field that Jones did not target. Jones did not throw from the pocket outside the numbers on these out-breaking routes. DeVito did. We saw Tyrod Taylor do it, but that was not something that Jones – I don't think Jones was comfortable doing it, because we never really saw many of these smash type of concepts where Jones actually took the 7. He would, if there was a smash concept, he usually checked the football down or opted to run.
Sure. So what does that mean for the Giants offense if we have a quarterback who's now going to be more aggressive attacking these areas of the field?
I mean, it just gives the Giants a lot more options I think it just forces the defense to cover more areas of the field, especially if you could do this from the field side. I'm trying to see on this video if this was a field or boundary throw. I'm pretty sure it's boundary. Yeah, it definitely looks like
boundary.
He
made a lot of these field.
Wait, is that field though? That might be field. I mean, it's hard to tell. But
these
again,
are bad clips.
Yeah,
he made those throws from the field for sure on his Ole Miss tape at times.
Yeah. He's on the hash. Is there another hash? No,
it's hard to tell from that angle.
Yeah. I see numbers, but yeah, exactly.
Regardless, it's good to see that area of the field attacked. It could open up so much for this offense.
Yeah, it absolutely can. It could be
theoretically
simple. Just put that outside defender in conflict, and if he wants to sit, if he doesn't sink, put it over top of him.
Yeah,
put it over top of him.
And have the touch to do it. And I think he can do it from all levels of the field. So let's talk about some other things. Steady drumbeat already building. Usually we get these guys starting in training camp, but a steady drumbeat has been building for third-year wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. Brian Daboll spoke about Hyatt today's practice. He said he's improved in all facets of being a receiver. We're going to need him to continue doing that in training camp. He also said, Daboll, that Russell Wilson's had a really big impact on Jalen Hyatt. Said they've had excellent communication. He's been an excellent leader for the team. He's talking about Russell Wilson. His detailed approach is key. He's done a nice job with Hyatt, he said specifically, who's done a nice job improving.
Dude.
Slayton also, Nick, praised Jalen Hyatt. Slayton said, Hyatt looks like he put on 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. And that's definitely helped his game some early on. So there's a lot of people talking about Jalen Hyatt, and he seems to be getting a lot of passes from Russell Wilson already. Maybe he does have a role in this offense this year.
That would be ideal because I don't want to burn another top 100 pick, somebody the Giants traded up for. I'll say this about Jalen Hyatt, man. And I didn't realize it was this bad, but I want to put you on the spot here. I just looked it up. Guess how many yards Jalen Hyatt had last year? Guess how many catches he had last year?
I don't know. 13 for 321.
You said 321?
Yeah, just guessing. Oh, no, that would be so many yards per catch.
Yeah.
13 for 172.
No, dude, it was 8 catches for 62 yards is what he had. 8 catches for 62 yards. Bro, in his rookie season, he had 23 for 373.
Right.
So he hasn't really experienced any success. He had a couple nice catches along the sideline in his rookie season, and he took a massive step back and couldn't even find the field. Didn't seem like the Giants were even interested. And before last training camp, we heard Mike Rowe rave about him. We heard the Giants rave about him.
True.
I do still think, because there was all that negativity last year. Remember when the Giants retained Brian Daboll or something like that? He said something like, I was like, oh, okay. Like he said something where he did not seem enthusiastic about the retention of the current regime. But regardless, this is a new chapter, a new page. The only thing you can glean from this is positivity. It's a good thing. You want Russell Wilson to speak highly of your third-year wide receiver who has struggled so far in the NFL. But I'll wait until I see it. But I am optimistic. Not that he's going to have success, but that he'll receive somewhat of an opportunity in training camp to have success. But you brought back Darius Slayton. There are some wide receivers in this room. It'd be excellent. And dude, we've said it. Is there a wide receiver on this roster, not named Darius Slayton, obviously Malik Neighbors, who's like, you will benefit so much more than the other wide receivers from having this quarterback in here rather than the quarterback that you had prior? Because you're a deep guy, and Russell Wilson's a deep ball thrower, and that's just not who the Giants have had for quite a while.
You're 100% right. He's the one who benefits most. I think it's why Russell Wilson's kind of taken a liking to him, because he envisions some of the biggest spark plays. If you just remember watching, the Steelers were like 12-1 at one point last year, Nick. They were like first in the AFC. They kind of fell off at the end of it. But during that winning streak, when the Steelers were winning every week, it felt like they would always have like a spark play. It would be a very conservative game plan with Arthur Smith and a good defensive performance. And they have a spark play, and it would be like a bomb by Russell Wilson. A lot of time to Pickens, but then a lot of time it was Calvin Austin, who didn't play a massive role for them from a snap share standpoint, from a overall target standpoint. But in those moments, he came up with that big touchdown over the top. I hope and feel that Jalen Hyatt could potentially be that guy for the Giants this year. That guy that just has a few big plays with Russell Wilson and important moments to give us a win over the top when we're in these hopefully one possession games that our defense dominates, because that's simply the blueprint for the Giants winning football games this year. Defense dominating, in my mind at least. We don't have the offense yet to dominate or anywhere close. But those big plays, and what it matters to me is, like, can he position himself to be ready to make those big plays? And that's something the coaching staff didn't feel he was last year, obviously. And that's something they'll have to prove in training camp, like Daboll said, that he is. But ultimately, there's also the other factor in play here, Nick, for me at least, which is right now, it looks like a very crowded depth chart where Jalen Hyatt's not going to get a lot of snaps regular season. But what happens if Slayton or Neighbors, God forbid, or Wan'Dale goes down? It's a whole different ball game now. And he becomes a player who might be in a really important role. So I still have hope that Jalen Hyatt with this quarterback can work.
I agree. Now, I'm going to read you Calvin Austin's stats from last year.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I want to ask you, if Jalen Hyatt puts this up, how would you feel in his third season? So in Calvin Austin's second season, he was targeted 58 times with 37 catches for 573 yards and 4 tutties. Like I would take that from Jalen Hyatt.
That's exactly the goal. Yep.
Yes. And I think he could even do better. Like if the right circumstances break for Jalen Hyatt per se, and all of this, I don't want to call it fluff, because I'm sure he probably has developed and focused on his game. But right now you hear a lot of positivity surrounding him. I still want to see that translate to football on Sunday, right?
Yes.
And we'll see. But I would take that. I would take those stats from your fourth receiver, which Jalen Hyatt is right now on this roster.
And a lot of those, like we said, came in huge moments for the Steelers, and that will hopefully be what Hyatt can be, because he's already done that to some extent, right? He had that big moment catch against Arizona 2 years ago as a rookie that really won the Giants that game. They weren't going to win that game without that big moment catch. So again, he kind of has to be that deep knife in the secondary, but actually come down with the football. And this is the quarterback to do it. I mean, this guy throws the most catchable football the Giants have caught in years, almost a decade, and not that far back with Eli, but obviously in the last 6 years. And this guy throws a ball that is really easy to track on the vertical plane. which was not the case for Jalen Hyatt's first 2 years
Yeah.
of his career. So let's see what happens when he can track a ball. All right, a few other notes, Nick. We got a rumor earlier during OTAs that the Giants might do joint practices with the Buffalo Bills. That is not going to happen, according to Brian Daboll. The only joint practice the Giants have scheduled right now is with the New York Jets, and they'll do a home and home, one in or over there. Where are they? In Morristown? No, not Morristown. Florham Park.
Florham Park, yeah.
Yep, and then one at East Rutherford. I'm going to try to go to the Florham Park one, by the way, just as a
You
heads
should.
up.
You're right in that area, dude.
Right here. I could definitely sneak out for that, I think. And so that'll be cool to see. He has a good relationship with Aaron Glenn, he talked about. We'll get to see the Giants matched up against pretty good defensive line, a pretty good defense overall, I think. We'll get to see how they kind of defend Justin Fields, what kind of pressure they can get on that offensive line for the Jets, which has a lot of early round draft picks and talent, but definitely hasn't really fully played up to their potential yet, their offensive line. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Yeah, man. Same here. Those joint practices are fun. And there's probably gonna be a fight. I wonder who's gonna be the catalyst to this fight. Is it gonna be James Hudson? Is it gonna be Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, possibly? We'll have to wait and see. Maybe Dexter. We haven't seen Dexter out there yet. Dexter probably would have gotten into a little bit of a scruff with the Royal Rumble that happened last week.
Probably. He probably would have been right in the middle of it. So, yeah, it'll be exciting to see the tensions flying. A few other notes, Nick, before we get into some plays from practice. Malik Neighbors not practicing yet, but his injured toe is reportedly, quote unquote, good, according to Brian Daboll. Nice. He's progressing, quote unquote, still not ready to practice in full, but participating now in the walkthroughs. So I assume he'll be good to go for full go for training camp unless I'm told otherwise. Tyrone Tracy has been working hard this offseason, Nick, on ball security. He's been using a grip strengthener that he bought on Amazon. It's a pretty good idea, I think. Yeah. One of the reasons Odell was so good in his early career with the Giants was grip strength. He talked about that in a few interviews, and it caught my attention. I think it played a big role in how he, made these insane catches. He said he also has worked a lot with fundamentals, and his whole goal this year, his main goal, is to avoid fumbles in year 2. This is via Evan Barnes, new Giants beat reporter who I found today. Any thoughts on any of those two things before we move on?
I mean, there's really not too much to say. Yeah, don't fumble the football, Tyrone Tracy Jr. That would be excellent. Yes, you want to be great. I would hope you'd want to be great at football, Mr. Tyrone Tracy. But yeah, I mean, I am glad that he's working on it with the grip strength, which is, get something off of Amazon. Let's improve our grip and let's not drop the damn ball, please. Thank you. Yeah,
without a doubt. John Runyon back out at left guard with the first team today. Evan Neal back with the 2s. Kubis was getting reps at right guard with the first team, which it was very interesting. A few other of those notes. Cordell Flott was the first corner out with the first team. Again, apart, but Tay Banks did get reps with the 1. So it was kind of like mix and match, but Flott was the first one out there. Same thing happened, Nick, at QB2. Jackson Dart was the first quarterback out there, but him and Jameis kind of split those reps up. I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think it means anything that Dart is already getting all these second team reps? I kind of felt like he'd be all third team through OTAs and like all third team for like the first week or 2 of training camp.
No, man, I think it's wise if he's ready to take those reps to just give him some, because what's the likely, I think it's more likely that we see Jackson Dart than maybe Jameis Winston, depending on how the season goes. Like Jackson Dart is the future of this team. And I think it's a positive development that he's earning some of these reps behind Russell Wilson. They want to see how he's able to adapt on the fly, how he's able to take what he's learning in the room and shit like that, and be like, oh crap, that defense is doing this. Now I'm applying it. And they want to judge that to see how far along he is. And you start here as baby steps, then we'll see that in training camp. I'm not shocked by that at all. It's a good issue to have at this point, man. Yeah. I mean, the Giants last year had Daniel Jones and Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. Now you have 3 guys who are at least, I mean, I don't know how good Jackson Dart is, but we can remain high on him. You have 2 other veterans there in that room who can help your rookie, possibly future starting, hopefully 10-decade-long quarterback, which would be amazing. But no, I'm not surprised by it.
And you could see it too when you watch the clips, Nick. Like I watched the dart throw we talked about, which is a really nice throw. Again, 7-on-7s, we're not worrying about like, can you make the throw under pressure? We're not making too much of it, but the natural ability to throw a football, that dart throw. And then there was a clip that I saw from, I think, SNY of Jameis Winston throwing like a long, deep route. And it's just such a more natural throw than we've been used to seeing in these camp practices over the last, especially last year when it was just Locke, DeVito, and Jones. Like the ability to actually throw a football, the natural ability, how it flies out of your hand, the explosive, does it explode off a hand? And is it actually getting somewhere into a good spot? Like it just looks so much better than it's been. So I'm excited about that. But I am making a little bit of Dart already getting the 2s over Jameis because I think it shows he's ready for it early, at least from a mental standpoint. And I'm excited about that because, like you said, we're more than likely, if we see a second quarterback this year, it would be Dart and not Winston. Though I am also curious about some of the rumors with Winston on the trade, like not on the trade market, but like would the Giants consider a late round pick swap with the Saints for Jameis Winston because the Saints kind of need him? I would hope the answer is no, because personally, I think that next year, Dart and Jameis is the way to go in the quarterback room because you can get that under like 10 million against the cap. And it's like Jameis is like 4 million against the cap. Dart's going to be like, what, maybe 8 or 10 at this point. But you can get that like 15 million under the cap and have like 25, 30 million extra to spend on O-line or whatever the hell you need at that point. So I hope that's the case, but we'll see what happens because I don't know how like thrilled Jameis is going to be about like being demoted to QB3 in camp, which seems like it's on the way of happening, right? Like if Dart's already getting these 2s, by the time we roll into camp, week 1 or 2 of camp, probably be Dart getting most of the 2s.
I have to imagine, right? So, yeah. I mean, again, I think a lot of this does depend on his progression as well. I don't want to put too much on Jackson Dart's plate either. Yeah. Like he better be a hungry boy if we're going to give him those reps.
Sure. Agreed. All right. Another note. It's another practice, Nick, with Mike Kafka calling the plays. It's been the case for every open practice, according to Dan Duggan. Daboll was consistent with the play caller the past off seasons. So all signs point to this, according to Duggan, Kafka getting the play calling duties back. We obviously know the Giants were a much more successful offense in 2022 with Mike Kafka calling the plays. There are tons of factors in play there. No Barkley one year. No Barkley was there in 2022. But I personally felt like there were concepts I liked that Daboll called more, and I liked his like pass first mentality a little bit more. But ultimately, I kind of felt like Kafka strung plays together better than Daboll, to be completely honest with you, Nick. I thought he did a great job of marrying the run to the pass, a better job than Daboll of marrying the run to the pass, and a better job of throwing tendency breakers out there that you would see in the red zone specifically. Speaking specifically of the red zone offense, overall, I felt like it was much better under Mike Kafka than Brian Daboll. So to me, this is a big time plus.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Look, we all love to work out. The summer's coming around. You want to look good in your bathing suit. But in order to enhance your workout, you want to go and use MitoPure from Timeline. This is a great product. When I started using it, it makes me feel stronger, gives me more energy. I recover quicker. You know, I'm in my 30s. I still have the energy to work out. And if you want that energy, you really should give Timeline's MitoPure a shot and work it into your routine. This, the great year of 2025, is your year to be the best, most energized, most revitalized you. MitoPure promotes cellular renewal and mitochondrial health to address common signs of aging at the root. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure right now. So go to timeline.com/banter. It's timeline.com/banter. That's TIMELINE. Yeah, Dan. I'm glad Mike Kafka is going to have more of a role now. And again, if it doesn't work out, you can always just go back to Brian Daboll. But I would rather have the head coach be the head coach and the offensive coordinator call the plays. I don't know how much of a massive difference there was between Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll. I mean, they had success with Mike Kafka. I think it was more because the Giants were just better than a lot of people expected. And remember, if you go back to 2022, there was a big lull at a certain point too, where Mike Kafka and the Giants offense struggled. But again, they were limited as an offense, and we knew that at the time. But hell, let's see what happens. Roll the dice. Let's go, Mike Kafka.
I feel like Daboll took over last year. He's like, my job is on the line. Then it's like, oh, I got an extra year. All right, I can go back to Kafka now. Like at this point,
exactly.
That didn't work. Let's try something new. But yeah, I think overall you're probably right. The personnel plays such a big role in it. Not having Barkley versus not having Barkley, I'm sure, is much easier to scheme, specifically those things I talked about in the red zone. Though I do stand by what I said. I did feel better personally with Kafka calling the plays. Not that much better, but enough better. And there were some issues with Daboll calling plays in Buffalo, just to throw that back out there.
That's very true. Very true.
Pat Trina, who a former or maybe current colleague of yours, somebody who you know dear and well, very good Giants beat reporter. I'm a big fan of Patty. She said one of her observations from all of OTAs is the thing about this pass rush so far, and this according to Pat, is how quickly they're getting into the backfield. She says even before the offensive line can get set at times. She said unofficially, I've counted 2 sacks and 4 pressures just in these team periods today.
Yeah. Again, offense is a little bit limited. Offense doesn't have Andrew Thomas, don't have John Runyon. You're going up against James Hudson and Aaron Stinney. But I mean, anybody who listens to this podcast knows how high Dan and I are on this pass rush. It's great, but again, it's going up against the Giants' backup offensive line, mostly guys who can't really hit either.
Yeah, you're right. Some other notes from, I mean, it's true. Like we're talking about like James Hudson at left tackle.
But with all that said, and I'm not blowing smoke right here, I still think the Giants may have the best pass rush in the entire National Football League.
Right.
So to Patty's point, that's also a reality I think that we could experience.
Yep, I think you're right. One more note from practice, and we'll talk about some things that happen after practice with just some comments. But players who didn't practice today, I always think this is interesting to note, and this is according to Dan Duggan. So thank you for digging this up, Duggs. No Scadaboo. I don't really know what's going on with Scadaboo. It's kind of
Duggs is a choice.
Is it Dugan?
No, well, it is Dugan, right? Dan Dugan. No, it's Duggan. I'm sorry, it's Duggan. But you called him Duggs like you guys are homies. You're like, oh
no,
good job, good job digging that up, Duggs. And I was like, do you know?
Good job, Dougie.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. But no Scadaboo. That's the most interesting one to me. No Eric Gray, no Neighbors, no Pascal, no Manhertz, no Andrew Thomas, no Darius Alexander. It's another weird one, but hopefully he's okay for camp. No Kayvon today. No Bobby Okereke. And then a few other guys, Javon Holland, Tyler Newman, the safeties are out today. So the Giants are being pretty cautious, I think, which is not a bad thing.
No, I'm not upset about them being cautious. Be a little bit more cautious at this point. Have everyone be healthy for training camp and then ease them into that as well. You suffer an injury in training camp. We've seen it derail seasons. Remember when we all thought Azeez Ojulari was going to have that second-year breakout? Boom.
Yeah.
Injury. Third-year injury. And then one of those started in training camp with that calf. And it was
You're right. True, in that joint practice of the Bengals, it's just annoying that could happen, but you're right. So you might as well take it slow with these guys.
Well, you don't want to take it too slow either. Like that's what the fine line where coaching and the organization need to come in and come up with a really well detailed plan.
True. All right, a few other things I want to talk about. Earlier, I don't know if you saw this, but the Giants did like a cut up of one of the last practices of Russell Wilson's touchdown throws. Ball was coming out pretty nice from Ross. That was indoors, but he had a couple throws. He had a throw to the back pylon to Darius Slayton where that ball absolutely jumped out of his hand. And I think he's looked pretty good so far in training camp. And we had last week, before that video came out, we had Wan'Dale Robinson kind of lighting up, talking about the way Russ throws a football, because he basically said, like, he throws with really good pace. He throws really catchable football, which is the same thing as saying he throws a good pace. And today we got more confirmation of that from Darius Slayton, who says, Russell Wilson just has a nice, quote unquote, a nice pace on his throws. And that's basically, he mentioned in years past, or you and I have mentioned in years past, pace on the football from the quarterback and what that means. Some people have passed it off as nonsense jargon, but it doesn't seem to be nonsense jargon to these wide receivers, Slayton and Wan'Dale, who are now both talking about it. And I assume we'll get similar comments from Malik Neighbors when he gets a chance to throw more with Russell Wilson. It just is big for me, Nick, because that ability to change the trajectory and throw with a different pace on the ball, throw a catchable football that kind of jumps out of your hand and then drops back into the bucket and lets the receivers run under it, it could mean a lot for this offense, dude. Like, it could really mean a lot for the timing and the rhythm, which is ultimately, in a lot of ways, everything, I think, in a passing game. If you have the timing and rhythm down, you can continue to move the football through the air and make big plays. When you don't have the timing and rhythm and down, you're going to throw in completions. It's going to stall drives. So I'm excited to hear these receivers talking about this.
Same here. Absolutely. Yeah. Rave about it. Now let's translate it into some wins, please, and some success on the field. That would be lovely.
Yeah. Another thing Slayton mentioned is he said so far in OTAs, everybody in the wide receiver room has touched the football down the field from Russell Wilson. That's something that's interesting to me because I think Russell does a good job of that throughout his career of getting a lot of receivers involved in the mix instead of leaning on one or two in these practices and then obviously in the games. So I just thought that was an interesting comment from Slayton as well. He also Tyrone Tracy spoke a bit about Russell Wilson. He said he's a great leader and a great person. It was super nice for him to take me and a bunch of teammates out to a huge dinner. He brings in energy by greeting everyone when he walks into a room. He imparts confidence in the huddle, a true pro. That was something else I saw that Darius Slayton said. I don't know that he's missed more than 1 or 2 deep balls this whole camp. That's what Darius Slayton said of Russell Wilson. He's really accurate, a firm ball that gets to you, but also doesn't get you killed. And he's smooth with it. It's interesting comments about the quarterback play. Yeah, very interesting comments. Slayton said he has a very clear vision and a clear communicator. Seems like he's been here longer than us. Also interesting comments. In and out of the huddle, his knowledge of the game, this is Slayton again, has shown already. Obviously, he has amazing talent with the football, but his accuracy, his great touch on deep balls. But he said what's really stood out to me, he's really accurate, he's really smart. He's helped listen to this one, Nick. He's helped keep us in good plays throughout the whole camp. I thought that one was really interesting because we didn't see a lot of authority from the last quarterback when it comes to keeping the Giants in good plays. Not a lot of pre-snap checks, not a lot of pre-snap anything from the last quarterback. So I think it's interesting to see the difference that these receivers are noticing with regards to like what that means when a quarterback can keep you in good plays.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a step in the right direction, but again, we'll have to see how it all. We have to see if Russell Wilson can still play football well, right?
Yeah,
and,
when the bullets fly is what you mean.
When the bullets are flying, exactly. And we're only really gonna know that when the season rolls around because he can have an excellent training. And we've seen Daniel Jones have great training camps, and the season rolls around and it's not as fruitful.
You're right. Training camp, we can't overestimate it. We really can't because the bullets fly. It's just a totally different thing. Even we saw it last year. We even got that glimpse. Remember the Texans preseason game where Jones was just absolutely horrible to start? I know he finished with decent stats because he played the Texans second stringers, but
they wouldn't take him out. Remember, we're like, yo, get this guy out.
We need some good. We need something good to throw on the tape after this game. But he was god awful for the start of that game against in a preseason game.
Texans
had guys threw a pick six, threw another interception on a totally flat deep ball. That was just terrible. That was if you want to see a good example of what Nick and I mean by throwing with pace and throwing a catchable football versus throwing a flat football, look at that deep ball that Derek Stingley intercepted against Daniel Jones. Just Google it after this. That's a great example of no matter how open the receiver could get on that, there's no way that wouldn't be an interception because the ball was so flat that all the DB had to do was turn around and locate it. It wasn't dropping up and over the top like Russell Wilson throws the deep ball. And it just makes all of the difference. Because you see a pass that's intercepted there versus with Russ, it'll never get intercepted because he's never going to throw that ball so flat. And so anyway, you have a picture. Okay, there you go. This is a repeat of it. Here it is. Nick's playing it back. He had a step, but it didn't matter because the ball was so flat in there.
Yeah, that is a flat pass. And Stingley is way too good of a cornerback to challenge in that type of situation and scenario.
Yeah, unless you want to throw a loopy ball over the top that drops to the back pylon and lets him try to run under it, which would have been tough anyway because the safety was there. It's kind of just a weird decision in general. But anyway, point being, we can't base what we see in training camp. We can't use that to judge the regular season. We're just going to have to see with Russ when the bullets are actually flying in week 1. But just an interesting to get all those comments. I think that was kind of it from today. It was a pretty light day at Giants training camp or OTAs, whatever we'll call it. So that's it. That's all we get until July, so we'll have to make the most of it. And hopefully we'll do some content. We'll start to do mailbags, maybe we'll have some guests on, do some evergreen stuff. But thank you so much for tuning in. Help keep us running, keep the show going by hitting the like button, replying, taking some comments, talking about whatever you want to talk about, and we'll jump in there and reply as well and respond and have some fun. Otherwise, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.